In a city divided by walls, one pot of jollof rice held the secret ingredient to peace. In Port Harcourt, where fences grow higher than palm trees, old Uncle Boma's jollof rice could mend broken friendships with a single bite. But when a wealthy stranger offered him a fortune to stop cooking, the entire community's peace began to unravel. Because Boma wasn't just a cook, he was a guardian, and his recipe wasn't just rice, it was magic. The day our story truly begins was the day of the Great Generator War between Mama Nkechi and Engineer Davidson. It started with fumes, escalated to shouted insults about ancestral villages, and climaxed with Mama Nkechi emptying a bucket of ogogoro, not water mind you, over Davidson's prized 5 kVA generator. The estate fractured, taking sides. That evening, as the tension hung thicker than the humidity, Uncle Boma sent his granddaughter, 16-year-old Chidinma, with 2 steaming plates. "Take this to the fighters," he said, his eyes twinkling like stars seen through smoke. Neither wanted to accept, but the scent was a siren's call. It had the smoky whisper of the pepper, the deep, knowing chuckle of the thyme, and a top note of something inexplicable, like forgiveness made edible. They ate, in silence at first. Then, as Chidinma spied from behind a mango tree, she saw Mama Nkechi with a mouthful of rice mutter, "Your generator, it did sound overworked." Davidson, chewing slowly, replied, "The ogogoro might have cooled it." They didn't hug, but they shared a second plate. The next morning, a sleek black SUV, dustless as a lie, purred into the estate. Out stepped a man in an agbada so white it hurt the eyes, Mr. Tombari, a property developer. He went straight to Boma, not with a greeting, but with an offer. "Uncle," he said, voice slick with money, "I am buying all the compounds, turning this into Harmony Height apartments. I need your land where your kitchen stands for the main gate." Boma merely stirred his pot. "My land is not for sale." "It is," Tombari smiled, a thin paper cut of a smile. "I have bought the air, the soil, the future. I offer you 3 million naira. Leave the pot." Boma's ladle stilled. The estate, holding its collective breath, listened. "My pot does not leave its fire," Boma said finally. Tombari leaned in, his whisper carrying like a curse. "I know what your jollof does, old man. I've tasted it. It makes people content. Content people don't dream of penthouses. They don't sell their father's land for progress. Your pot is bad for business." He left, but his shadow remained. That night, Boma's fire wouldn't catch. The wood, dry as bone, smoked but refused to flame. And when he finally cooked, the rice was good. Just good, not magical. Chidinma, tasting it, felt a hollow dread. "Grandfather, what's wrong?" Boma stared into the dying embers, his face looking older than the river. "The hearth god is troubled," he murmured. "It feeds on unity, but fears greed, and a great greed has just cast a shadow on our fire." As the first residents complained of restless sleep and old grudges resurfacing like bones in the sand, Chidinma found a single, strange ingredient at the base of the woodpile, a charred, twisted root she didn't recognize, smelling of petrol and regret. Tombari had not just made an offer. He had already begun to poison the magic. But if the pot's power was fading, what desperate act would the divided community make to get it back? Chidinma became Boma's detective. While he guarded the silent hearth god, she investigated. The charred root led her to Old Iye, the medicine seller at the fringe of the estate market. "Ah, child," Iye spat, recognizing the root. "This is Akara-Otu, greed's root. It doesn't grow here, it is brought. It steals warmth, kills spirit fire. Whoever put this in your grandfather's woodpile wants his share, his power to make things happen, to wither." Meanwhile, Mr. Tombari worked openly. He held flashy meetings in the estate square, showing digital renderings of Harmony Heights, gleaming glass, swimming pools, no zinc lean-tos. He offered life-changing money. The division deepened, the young dreaming of modernity, the old clinging to community. Desperate, Boma knew he needed to rekindle the hearth god. Its fire, he told Chidinma, is lit from an eternal ember buried where this city was first born, a fishing camp by the creek before the oil rigs. That night they slipped out. Boma, Chidinma, and silent hulking Kabiru from Compound 2, whose brother Boma's Jollof had once saved from a vengeful mob. They navigated through forgotten paths, past sleeping pipelines, to a sacred grove now littered with plastic bottles. There, under an ancient Iroko tree, Boma dug. He pulled out a small clay pot. Inside, a single coal glowed with a soft and persistent light, neither dimming nor blazing. They returned as dawn bled into the sky, but the lean-to was ransacked. The big iron pot was gone. Only the cold, scarred stones of the fireplace remained. Boma didn't rage. He sank to his knees, a quiet defeat. But Chidinma noticed something. The thieves, in their haste, had missed the old, smaller clay pot Boma used to store his base spices. And tucked within a fold of his mat was a single dry bay leaf, the last one from the original magical batch. The pot is a vessel, Boma whispered, a new fire in his eyes. The ember is the heart, but the recipe is the soul. They have the body, not the spirit. But who took it? Suspicion fell on everyone. On Tombari, certainly, but also on greedy neighbors who might have sold it to him, or on someone who wanted the magic for themselves. As Boma prepared to use the ancient ember to reconsecrate a new pot with the last bay leaf, Chidinma saw a flicker of movement in the compound opposite. It was Mama Nkechi, watching from her window, her face not showing concern, but something else, guilt. And tucked under her arm was that a familiar, soot-blackened corner of a sack. If the pot was stolen from within our own walls, who in our fractured family had become the thief, and what terrible price would the magic demand for its return?
Boma announced a feast of decision, for free, one last pot of his special jollof for the whole estate before Mr. Tombari's final buyout meeting the next day. The community, torn by suspicion and temptation, gathered in the square, drawn by the legendary scent, now laced with a strange new tension. Tombari came too, smirking from the sidelines, confident his money had already won. The rice was served, everyone ate, and the magic changed. It didn't bring warmth, it forced clarity, brutal, unforgiving clarity. Engineer Davidson, eating, suddenly remembered, not felt, but saw his own father telling him never to sell ancestral land. He vomited. Young Jide, dreaming of apartment life, had a vision of himself lonely and disconnected in a sterile Harmony Heights flat and began to weep. Mama Nkechi, taking her first bite, froze, her face contorted. She wasn't seeing a memory, she was confronting a current truth. She looked directly at Boma, her eyes wide with panic, and shook her head. No, it wasn't me. But the magic was still working. It traveled like a truth wave through the crowd. Then it hit Tombari. He had taken a plate, arrogant, wanting to taste the myth he'd crushed. As he swallowed, his smugness melted. He didn't see memories or guilt, he saw nothing. A vast, hollow emptiness where his ambition lived. No joy, no legacy, just a cold, consuming void. He dropped the plate, his hands trembling. The feast ended not in unity but in raw, exposed nerves. People left shaken, not settled. The magic, poisoned by greed and suspicion, had become a truth serum, not a balm. That night, Chidinma couldn't sleep. She crept back to the square, and there, in the moonlight, she saw him, Kabiru, the quiet giant who had helped them to the creek. He was at the ruined lean-to, not stealing, but returning. He heaved the massive iron pot from a wheelbarrow, his face a mask of anguish. It was me, he whispered to the night, not seeing Chidinma. He paid for my mother's surgery. He said it was just to borrow the pot, to break the old magic so we could all move forward. He touched the pot with a reverence that spoke of deep shame. But I felt its spirit leave. I felt the estate break. I am sorry. The pot was back, but it was cold, just metal. The ancient ember in the new pot still burned, but its light was frail, and Tombari, now exposed to the void inside himself, wouldn't simply walk away. A man who sees his own emptiness becomes the most dangerous kind of animal. As Chidinma watched Kabiru slink away, a new, more terrifying thought struck her. The magic had shown everyone their deepest truth. It had shown Tombari his hollow core. What does a hollow man filled with nothing but greed discover the only thing that ever made him feel real was the very magic he tried to destroy?